if this is straight. It's gonna be fine. I don't know how to use this thing. Anyways, okay, so hi friends. So this is kind of just gonna be a ramble video. Honestly, a lot of people have been asking like, how did I get started with my psychic abilities, or how maybe they can like test theirs or enhance theirs. So this is kind of just gonna be a ramble video. One of the first questions was, does everybody have psychic abilities? So this can maybe change depending on who you ask. I am a firm believer that yes, we do. It's just if people choose to tap into them. Certain things that people don't understand that they have is like, if you walk into a room and you're like, oh, you can cut the tension with a knife. You're literally feeling energy. Right there, that's you being open to other energies and things that you can't see. So there are little things like that, or gut feelings, or really messages from spirit guides and messages from your higher self. Like, we have so many more abilities and so much more internal power than we think we do. So that would be my answer to it. And I'm pretty sure I've heard a lot of people say this, but yes, absolutely, I believe so. Next, I also made a little herbal blend with some of my herbs, and I'm gonna light it to cleanse the space for this video. So also why I'm cleansing, I was born seeing spirits and talking to spirits, and every woman in my family has some semblance of the gift, so it wasn't like completely out of left field. But a lot of them haven't, like they are aware of it, but they haven't fully opened it. So that's kind of something that like, that wasn't the reason I shut it down. I was really open to it, and then I think I just got scared and my friends weren't doing it, and like it was like little things like that that I was like, this is weird. And by like, I think 12, I was like, I'm closing off. I'm not open to this anymore. I remember 12 being a really intense year for some reason, like 11, 12. I remember puberty not helping me in these situations and feeling like it made everything times 10. Like I said, I was born remembering my past lives. The past life trauma came back like times 10. Everywhere I turned, there was another, like the memories were getting more intense, and the connection to that soul was getting more intense, and seeing things was more intense. And I think, you know, middle school is hard enough, high school is hard enough, and I think I just kind of turned it off. But first things first, let's talk about how you're receiving information every day, whether you know it or not, with the Clairs. So the Clairs are a series of abilities and just kind of how you receive your information. I don't know if I'm describing this right. A lot of times people have one strong one or ones that work in tandem. I know I have about 3 that are my strongest, that's how they'll give me information. So sorry guys, my wife called. So pretty much my strongest are clairvoyance, which is when you see things. They can manifest in the like physical 3D reality, but a lot of things are filled in your mind's eye, which sometimes when you don't realize that you're receiving messages can feel like you just have a very overactive imagination. Sometimes this can leak into also having really vivid dreams, and waking up feeling like you haven't slept and just like you're getting more information than you think. And then we have clairsentience, which is clear feeling, and Cognizance, which is just clear knowing. There's a lot, I guess there's more than I thought, but Clairsentience is kind of when you physically feel things. Like there are times I'll feel like I put up boundaries so that spirits can't like fully touch me, but if you are of love and light, sometimes I'll feel a spirit hold my hand if it's like a loved one, or have their hand on my shoulder. There has been times where I've gotten really intense news and I literally felt my spirit guides come from behind me and like pick me up. Like I was going to the ground, and that was like that was in the beginning of my spiritual journey, and I remember being like, there's no way I just did that myself. So they can, like, you can feel things very physically. You can also feel, if I'm doing card readings with clairsentience, I will feel other people's emotions. So if somebody has asthma, I'll sometimes feel like somebody's sitting on my chest. If somebody's anxious, I'll feel their anxious energy flow through me. And I always kind of have to be like, are you somebody who struggles with this, or weird other like physical symptoms that they don't manifest with me because they were trying to, their higher self is trying to show me this is what they deal with. So that was really interesting the first time also. Also, I should say, and again, this video is going to be all over the place, I'm so sorry. I like to talk about spiritual things without much of a plan, and I just like to go from the heart and go from my own personal experience, which, again, disclaimer, doesn't mean it's every psychic's experience. This is just mine. Everybody, though it is a gift that a lot of people can share, the way they'll go about it is incredibly different, and the way people receive information and communicate with spirits and things is very, very different. But anyways, I digress. Also, I should say that when you can always have these abilities, but they'll feel a little bit like like they get stronger as you really work on them and you fully give into them and say like, I believe in my own abilities, I believe in myself, I'm open to receiving. You can have a little bit of this happening, like you can be like, I feel like that's me. Then the more that you accept and allow yourself to dive into these abilities, they get stronger to the point where you kind of can't deny them anymore. So if you have these abilities but you're like, oh, it's not like sometimes I don't know, that's completely normal in the beginning. The self-doubt really kicks you in the stomach in the beginning because it's something that society doesn't talk about often, and it's getting more normalized, which I love. But it's something that, like, when you're growing up, people don't talk about, oh, you might have these abilities or this might be normal. So in our brains, we're conditioned by society to think that it's not normal and to think with the 3D brain. So when something happens that we can't physically see or explain, it's very much like, that's not real, it's in my head. I have a really overactive imagination. But there's so much more out there that society doesn't talk about and maybe even doesn't want us to see that's really real and it's really out there. Again, believe whatever you want. This is just my own personal experience. So Claircognizance is my next strongest one. Claircognizance is like inner knowing, deep feeling. Like you will just know things about people, about life, about a situation, and there's no two ways about it. Like you're like, I know this to be true. I feel it in my bones. I can see it so clearly. Like clairvoyance and claircognizance working kind of in tandem. And you will have no way to back it up. Like sometimes I'll call my family and be like, by the way, this is happening, or this is going to happen, and this is the way it is. Or in tarot readings, when people ask me questions, I'll be like, it's like this, and I can't explain how I know that. And a lot of them are like, okay, I'm going to go with it. And then will end up calling me and being like, how did you know? And I'm like, I just knew, and I just felt it. And I don't always know exactly how to go about that. It could be really uncomfortable too. Especially like when I was young and dating, I always just knew things about people, even if they were lying to my face. I always knew things about people, whether I wanted to see it or not. I could feel what they were feeling, and that made dating in my younger years a little bit difficult. But I also wasn't fully open to it, so I think I just like chose not to see a lot of things. One of the next clairs, and one of my strongest clairs, is also Clairaudience. So this is when spirits talking to you. You can hear spirits talking. Either they're trying to give you messages, you hear random songs in your head, or you just hear them communicating by themselves, and it's like you're eavesdropping on a conversation. So it can be very physical to the point where you're hearing like somebody, like one of your housemates or one of your family members is talking. But a common misconception that people kind of like will tell themselves they don't have it is that like it has to be physical. It can also feel like, you ever have thoughts that you're like, this doesn't sound like my thought, and it feels like somebody's screaming it at me? That is also clairaudience. So it just depends on, you can also get both. I get messages both ways sometimes. Sometimes spirits, especially if I'm doing a reading, will give me a song in my head and it'll mean nothing to me. I've never even heard the song, or maybe it is a song I've heard, either way, and I will tell the person like, this song's coming up for a reason, doesn't mean anything to you. And they'd be like, oh my God, that was our song, or oh my God, I really need to hear that right now, or like be reminded to listen to that. So another thing that I would say is to never judge the messages that are coming forward. They might not make a lick of sense to you, but that is so normal, because it's not meant, especially if you're doing readings for other people, it's not meant to make sense to you. You're the conduit. It's meant to make sense for the person whose energy you're connecting to and whose loved ones and guides you're connecting to. So again, I am getting out of the like area where I prejudge the messages that come through, because I'm like, I can't make sense of it, so maybe I won't say it because I could be wrong. But like when I just say it, people are like, holy shit, yes. Or they'll find a way to make a bridge and it'll make sense. So know that it doesn't always have to make sense to you. A lot of times it's just a lot about inner trust, and it's not so much about like having to have it like down like a well-oiled machine, because the more you lean into trust, it gets to that well-oiled machine, not questioning myself, leaning in. But it's not natural for us to just dive in and be like, I'm completely great at this. I know this completely. I trust my abilities, especially if you were somebody who turned them off for a really long time. Okay, so the next one is, there's a lot, by the way. I would definitely look more into them. I'm speaking about the ones that I kind of am familiar with and know of, but there are so many that you can have. This one has been happening to me recently. I believe it's called Clairsentience, and it's clear smell. So this is really common with loved ones, I find. It could be like you have a grandparent's perfume, or somebody who's passed on that you love, their perfume, and you'll smell it randomly, and that's them trying to show you that they're here with you. That is clear smelling, clairsentience. Sometimes if spirits are trying to show me a memory for somebody, like there's this one woman who she came forward for somebody and we couldn't really place who she was, and she made me smell like cinnamon and apple pie and things like that, and it clicked a memory for the client and they understood. So again, never judge what comes forward, just accept it and pass it along, or if it's for you, just sit with it, maybe journal it. Even if it doesn't make sense in the moment, it could make sense in a day from now, a week from now, a month from now, etc. Ooh, next, Clairaudience, I believe it is. This one is probably the one that I experience least. It is like clear taste or whatever, so sometimes you just get a weird taste in your mouth. I feel like this has happened to me randomly in passing, but never like to give me like a really clear message. I know there are some psychics that have certain feelings, like if somebody's trying to tell them how they passed, they'll taste like silver for choking or being strangled or something. Like they have little clues like that. I do not, at least as of yet. But so that's super interesting. That's something I'm a little bit unfamiliar with, the Clairaudience. But there are, if you get nothing else out of this video, there are a million ways for these abilities to work. And don't be so quick to judge your abilities and how you receive information, and know that they will change over time, and the more that you open these up. I guess like my biggest advice would be, if you are trying to enhance these, it would be a lot of meditation. I remember like kind of getting messages and not being able to decipher them when I started reopening it back up. And I would spend time in meditation, especially if I'm trying to channel something or communicate with a specific spirit. I like to like put noise cancellation headphones in, and I have this blindfold, kind of black, dark blindfold that I put over my eyes, because it just makes it easier to receive images in meditation. It also makes it easier to astral project and things like that. That's another video. But so I would say definitely meditation is your key. It'll just kind of unlock things without you even understanding, but you will also start receiving information more clearly in meditation the more you lean into it. But then you realize you're receiving it out of meditation, but when you take all the distractions and stressors out of your everyday life trying to receive information, when you have just you're not looking at anything, you're maybe listening to frequency music or whatever it is you like to meditate to, could be a guided meditation, then you can really start to see and get comfortable with how you receive information. And then it'll get easier to see and receive when there's other things going on. You know, when you're around people and other different energies, when you're around a lot of visually intense, you know, like everyday things, if that makes sense. So that would be my biggest thing to say to like enhance information and psychic abilities. My next would be to like ask your guides. So consent is a really big thing in the spiritual community. They are always there for you. They are always there to protect you and take care of you and like and help guide you, but they can only do as much as you allow them. So if you say, please show me, please help me connect to my inner self and my abilities, or please help me see this situation for what it is, and if you give them permission to be a little bit louder about it, immediately they will be. Like every 6 months I will be like, by the way, you guys can intervene in whatever way you want and like help me and come down. And you know, because I remember being told that by a bunch of psychics, that you have to physically tell them that they could really help and like get involved and really be loud about it. And that made me also feel like I just told them they can be loud, so I'm going to be way more open and see what they're going to say, and they will, if you don't listen, get way louder especially about things that maybe you're not ready to hear. Definitely been there. Another thing that I would say that this just helped me, I don't know if it'll help you, I was really nervous when I started opening it up, and people started to come to me, other spirits and energies started to come to me, and you know, you put up your boundaries so that you're only receiving love and light, and you can consent to what can and cannot come to you. That's a big thing. You have all the power in the situation before you open these abilities. I would definitely say to research how to kind of protect yourself and put those boundaries up, because boundaries are very important in this. But I have my grandmother, who's always been a spirit guide of mine. I'm her namesake, and she's a really big soft spot and guardian angel for me, or, you know, guide for me. And she was the only one I trusted for a while. Even still, I call her in sometimes to be like, what do you think about this and this spirit? So I would always ask her if a spirit would present to me, or if something was told to me, I'd be like, call her in and say, is this okay? Is this safe? is this the right way to do this? Is this? And, you know, it really helped me to be able to trust, because especially spirit guides that maybe you haven't met, when they're starting to introduce themselves to you or coming to you, it can be scary because, you know, not all of them look like what you would expect them to look, not in a bad way, just, you know, there's so much more out there than we can even see and comprehend. So there's things I'm seeing for the first time, there's, you know, and you'll always feel energy, but when you're new and you're scared, sometimes you feel that fear energy and you think maybe like, you know, so you never know. So it's good to have one soul that you can be like, you got me, we good, can I do this? And I don't know why, that just really helped me. Especially I was really scared when I started reopening. As for the fear thing, I will say, when a spirit presents themselves, if you are scared and nervous, you'll feel their energy first. So a lot of times you'll know, like, you'll get this inner calm and you'll feel like light buzzing around, and you'll know that they are good. So that's another indication. If you ever go into a meditation and you just cannot feel settled, or something's trying to communicate with you, just say, I do not consent to communicating with you. I do not consent to you being around my energy, even attempting to communicate with me. You can say whatever you want that feels good to you and protect yourself from that. So again, don't be scared, because you have all the power, as long as you just like understand that you do and kind of find out how to protect yourself, if that makes sense. I feel like this is the most rambly video I did. There's just so much to this topic that's like really hard to kind of like put into words and organize. So if you guys have any questions, put them down below. Again, this is just my personal experience, but if anybody wants to know anything, let me know.